Hi, everyone. It's Tessa.
And Joe.
From the Unveiling Paradise podcast.
Tessa, summer is almost here, and so many of our listeners are about to have their epic destination wedding.
And we are so excited for you guys.
Before the big day, guys, we want you to make sure you listen to these 3 episodes.
Episode 62, Deep Diving Your Wedding Ceremony.
Episode 53, Questions Your Wedding Guests Will Ask.
And episode 31, the final countdown to your wedding day.
And if you're planning your wedding here in Hawaii, hit us up and ask us about our Unveiling Paradise podcast promo.
Happy planning.
Welcome, everybody, to the Unveiling Paradise podcast. We are officially starting season 4. Welcome to the show, Tessa.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Well, you are part of the show, so it would be a little awkward.
Well, you welcomed me, so thank you for having me.
How was your summer?
It was good. It was busy. How was yours?
Super busy. I think we were both just jamming out weddings right and left. We had a bunch of weddings together, actually, which was a lot of fun.
So fun. I loved it.
Okay, Tessa, I want to start by talking about one of the weddings we did together, Kavika and Roxanne's. And this one's really fun because I think we started our podcast right around the same time that they started planning their wedding. So it's kind of funny. I know these guys have become super fans, and we were so excited about this particular wedding because they really were kind of diving into everything that we were sharing on the podcast and kind of planning their wedding around a lot of the advice, which is for us, that's the biggest win when we're all the things that we're sharing, couples are actually taking that to heart and playing with it and figuring that out. What is really fun is that we've gotten to know them, through the year and a half of planning. And what I really love about them is they are so quirky and so funny. They love just inside jokes. And you just, sometimes you get to meet those couples that you connect with on that level and that you kind of become, I don't know, it's friends with them after, or during the process, right?
And what I love is we really forged this cool relationship with them where, again, it's, they listen to us, they listen to our advice. And when I talk to them, right, as their wedding planner, so many of the things they said were based off of our podcast. So it only made sense that on their wedding day, they had this really cool inside joke where a lot of their details were our Unveiling Paradise podcast theme. One of my favorite things that I thought was so funny is they had a his and hers drink, and they had a third drink. And that third drink was called the Unveiling Paradise.
Right.
And my favorite part is, for listeners who have listened to our episode about bar with Chad, everybody knows that I love gin.
Right.
And everybody knows that you hate gin.
Right.
So I love that the Unveiling Paradise was a gin-based drink.
Do you think they were trying to do that because they're on Team Tessa and not Team Joe?
Yeah, exactly. They are Team Tessa all the way. They've told me. I don't want to freak you out, but they did tell me that they're both hardcore Team Tessa.
I mean, it was really funny, and again, after, getting to know these two as a couple, for the last year and a half, they have this, kind of really playful sort of, quirky personality where they love inside jokes. And so I guess for me, it just sort of reminded me how exciting and fun it is to actually be incorporated into a wedding, as a guest or as, a vendor, whatever it is, and so let's talk about this today. How do you incorporate personal touches like this to your wedding day?
Exactly. And I think it was really cool, right? Being at that wedding, it was that reminder, I think, that both of us got, right? How does it feel to be a guest? How does it feel, even for us as podcasters, just being there and being kind of in their wedding? It was a great way for us to kind of take a step back and then think about, how do we create these experiences? How do we add these personal touches that will allow our guests to be a part of our wedding day with us?
Absolutely. And as a guest, all these personal touches really bring you into that couple's big day. And I think that's really what we want to talk about.
So let's get started. Welcome to Unveiling Paradise, your go-to destination wedding podcast. I'm Tessa, wedding planner and owner of Fred & Kate Events.
And I'm Joe, wedding and adventure photographer of Joseph Esser Photography. We are based in Hawaii, one of the biggest, most popular locations for destination weddings.
We want to share our real-life experiences with you, give you insight from a professional's perspective, and still make sure you're having fun in the process.
We're huge believers in the fact that planning a destination wedding can be one of the most amazing experiences, and we want to bring you along.
We're so excited to talk with you about weddings, Hawaii, and everything else under the sun.
So pack your bags and let's get started.
Well, Tessa, we have a lot to talk about today. I want to start by talking about wedding themes and like wedding style. Okay, so like big picture, when you're planning a wedding, right, there is something called your wedding theme or wedding aesthetic, right? And this is the thing that kind of dictates like that overall sort of like theme or style or aesthetic that you thread throughout the day. So from like your color palette to how you decorate your ceremony and your reception and that kind of thing. There's a quote from David Tutera. You know who he is. He's,
The guru of all wedding planning.
right, the guru of all wedding planning. And he says this: if you want a great wedding that engages your guests, it's all about telling a story from the moment they receive the invitation to the last thing they see, which could be the favor. Having a style or theme helps you choose the story you're going to tell.
I love that. Yeah.
And so like, if you think about all the themes and all the different styles, I mean, there's so many different ways that people will organize their wedding, right? So you've heard of like the boho wedding, right? Or the rustic wedding, or I mean, there's the minimalist. Have you ever heard of a maximalist wedding?
What is that?
This is like just explosions of colors and it's like max to the max.
I love that.
I think we can talk about this on another episode, right? What I want to focus on today is not just those big themes, but what I want to talk about is how to customize your wedding in a way that brings your guests into that experience. And so we have a bunch of different things we want to talk about. Personal touches today. How to add, like what we had that experience with Kavika and Roxanne's wedding, how to add those personal touches that really draw in your guests to be able to not only have them experience your wedding, but also to kind of bring you into that couple's relationship and that thing that makes them want to get married.
Right. And I think, whenever I talk to couples, one thing that I tell them is as we're planning their wedding, as we're thinking of their theme, or like I like to call it their vibe, it's when you see these little special touches at their wedding and their guests will be like, yep, that's totally them. So again, it's not just that high level boho or minimalist or anything like that. It is that those little details throughout the wedding planning that when the couple sees it, whether it be, specific favors like a gummy bear and they're like, oh my gosh, she eats gummy bears every day, that's totally her, or a coffee bar at the end of the night because he's obsessed with his fancy coffees. Those touches are, I think, what makes a wedding so special.
And I think that's true. I think that you want to draw your guests into your story, that couple's story, right? And so what is it that makes that couple unique? What is that couple story that you want your guests to know when they walk away from your wedding?
Exactly. And I think we have a ton of great examples today. I want to start with the first one, which I think almost everybody will relate to, your fur baby, right? So having pets. If you have a pet and you want to find a way to incorporate them into your wedding, right? A lot of times when you're about to get married, you're starting a family and you often start with your doggy, your cat, your hamster, whatever it is. And they are a huge part of your family, a huge part of your relationship. And people will often ask me, how do we incorporate this loved one into their wedding?
Sometimes you can bring...
Yeah, so depending on your venue, right?
Yeah.
You can bring the fur baby. Sometimes you can't. Or maybe you can bring fur baby to the ceremony, but not for the reception. But a lot of my couples want to incorporate them in as many, many places as they can.
And to so many of our couples, like that is, you're right. Like that is part of the family. They are part of the family, their dog or their cat or whatever it is. They are part of the family that they want to have at their wedding, right? So how do we do that?
One of my favorite ways to do it, and I know that you've done this recently, you did an engagement shoot with a couple and they had their little baby, their little doggy with them, right?
Yeah.
I think you showed me the pictures. They were adorable.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so these guys had a tiny little pup and it was like, I think it was like 14 years old. It was so cute. And like having that photo shoot centered not around just the couple, but that thing that they cherish, which is their little puppy, right? It's like, it's so cute.
I love that you can incorporate them into the save the dates. You can also print, at your wedding, you have the welcome sign. And a lot of my couples will put that picture of them with their puppies, with their fur babies. And I love, because again, they are a family unit. They don't consider them a pet. They're literally part of their family.
And some people will take their dogs everywhere with them. And, like to not have them at the wedding would feel really weird. So can you have your dog at a wedding?
So depending on the venue, right? A lot of times I think what I've seen is you can have them at the ceremony, but maybe not at the reception where there's food service.
Right. So you see like the dog might be like the ring bearer or,
Have you seen the dogs in the tuxedos? They're so cute. You must have seen it, right?
Sometimes they're just trying to rip that thing off and they're like, this sucks. Why would you do this to me, Mom?
But I've seen it before where like there's two dogs and there's like a ring bearer and then the flower girl and there's like a cute little skirt. Like they're so cute.
Okay. So let's talk about that logistically. If you're going to do this, and I think it's super fun if it's what you're into, you have to make sure that you have someone dedicated to be a dog handler. You're not going to want to be managing your dog and also trying to like be a guest at your wedding.
Well, not even the guest. You're the star at your wedding. And something to think about too is venue. If you're in an outdoor venue and it's very muddy or, if it's rainy, are you okay if your dog jumps on you? If your dog is a jumper, do you want your dog to be jumping on you in your beautiful dress if you're wearing a beautiful white dress?
And there are tons of companies now that you can hire for these types of things. So like Rover is one that, I know people will use Rover they just come in for an hour or two, help out with the dog, put the dog back at the house, and then you're good.
It's perfect. Joe, would you bring your dogs to your wedding?
No. My dogs would never make it to a wedding. They are ginormous. I have 2 Great Danes and an English Mastiff, and they would definitely knock everything over and probably eat the flowers and maybe the ring bearer.
It would be an adventure, though.
It would be.
We could have a whole episode about it, about your dogs destroying a wedding.
How about having them as like little creatures on a cake topper, though, right? That's something that I see a lot is like, if you can't have your dog at a wedding, you can still incorporate them. You can still incorporate them into different things. So like cake toppers, I've seen some really cute things where like the dogs are eating the cake, or whatever. And it's like,
I know you love that.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's other ways to do it that might not require that stress of having them on site.
I've seen also, the dogs on a cocktail napkin or the drink stir. Or again, what's really cool is they've named the drinks after the dogs as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways that I think you can incorporate your pets into a wedding without them having to physically be there if they cannot be.
Yeah. And again, if we're talking about personal touches, this is like such a fun way to bring this into your wedding.
As I mentioned before, whenever I'm talking to a couple about their wedding planning, right, it's really about their vibe and who they are. And again, pets are such a huge part of a couple's lives that it just makes sense to tie them into your wedding somehow.
Right. So let's talk about the next thing then. Our loved ones. Okay. So if it's not our pets, a lot of times we want to bring in our loved ones. So it might be grandparents, family members who can't physically be at a wedding, but we want to sort of celebrate them, make sure that we include them in our big day. Sometimes family members may have passed. So how do we honor them and how do we, incorporate them into our special day? And these are some really important touches that are not only just for the couple, but also for the family members in attendance for the wedding.
For sure. And sadly, just a couple weeks ago, I did a wedding and the bride's father passed away about a week before. So very, very suddenly. I know. But for us, it was how do we find ways to honor him without it being kind of over the top and making it sad. Mm-hmm. So again, they were very subtle hints where we had a lei placed on his chair. It's one of those things where what I love and I see a lot is these walls of photos or a table of photos. For this particular wedding, I think it was a little too raw to have that photo, Mm-hmm. So we had a lot of other ways to incorporate him. They sang a song that he loved in his honor, so there was a lot of special touches without it being over the top. Another thing that I've seen really recently is I had a couple whose mother passed away from cancer. So instead of doing favors, they did a donation to the American Cancer Society from everybody instead. I thought that was a really nice touch.
No, I love that. And that's impactful. That's awesome. I love that. I also see photos as being a really nice way to incorporate family members, whether they're past or not, into your wedding. Sometimes that might be a little locket on a bouquet. Sometimes there's tables with pictures of like family members at their weddings 20, 50, 100 years ago, and that's always fun. Some of these little things make a huge impact.
Agree. And again, like you said, I've seen a lot of these little trinkets that I love. Again, the pictures on the bouquet, inside the jacket, I've seen it just kind of in their vows, a little picture of their parents. Like, I love those special little touches that honor their family.
Okay, Tessa, this is a little depressing. Like we have to talk about personal touches that don't necessarily involve like missing dogs or missing family members. Like, how do you bring all those personal touches that bring your guests, your family and friends into that couple's vibe? There are so many things. Let's jump into some of our favorites.
Sure. So one of my favorite ones is a travel theme. I have so many couples where their vibe is traveling. They've explored the world together. They've traveled all over together, and they want to share that with their family. That's why a lot of our couples do destination weddings. They want to bring them to Hawaii, one of their favorite places in the world, and have their family and friends experience that together with them. So one of my favorite travel themed ideas that I had a couple do a few years ago is they traveled the world and they collected wine. So the wine was at each table as their centerpiece, and they could open it and the guests could drink it that evening, but it was wines from different places that this couple has traveled together.
I love that. I mean, travel is such a huge part of a destination wedding. So like, why not lean into that? I think that's great.
Right. I loved it. And they leaned in fully to the travel theme. So in addition to the wine at each guest table, they had postcards from all over that people could write to them as their thank yous. They had a globe as their check-in.
Yeah, so I see that where you can make little messages on the globe for the couple, or you're signing your name, or places that you had traveled with the couple, or whatever it might be, places that you grew up with the couple.
Right. And then I think recently I did another wedding that was really cool where they had 3 boxes and people could choose where the couple should go on their honeymoon.
Ooh, that's fun. I like that.
But pressure, right? Because what if they don't pick my decision?
What were the options for this wedding?
It was Italy, Japan, and Tahiti.
Oh, easy. Oh, no.
Japan? What would your vote have been?
I don't know. Okay, I was going to say Italy because, I mean, right now I'm just digging Italian food.
Oh, damn, you're right. I do love Italian food.
Oh, but Japanese food is amazing
food
too.
And Tahiti? I mean, that's kind of your go-to. So see how tough that would be?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But isn't it kind of cool to let your guests dictate where you go?
And like you bring them into the fold. You bring them into that experience. I love that.
So at the end of the wedding, I think they opened up the boxes and we kind of counted to hold them accountable that this is where they picked. This is where you're going.
So where are they going?
They're going to Tahiti.
Ooh, perfect.
I know. So fun.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's like bringing everyone into the fold at your wedding. And like they feel like they're part of that relationship in a real way.
For sure.
So let's talk about that. Sometimes our couples want to personalize the things that they care about the most. And it might not be a dog. It might be a podcast, right?
I love that.
Or, it's like Disney or Star Wars, or, I mean, there's been like Lord of the Rings, like all these different themes that it's like this. If you were to say Star Wars, you would be like, that's Jill and Barry or whatever. You know what I mean? But it's like that everyone knows them as that thing. And it's like, why wouldn't they have a Star Wars themed wedding, right?
So this isn't Disney, it's Pixar. But have you seen the movie Up?
Yeah, actually, that's true. Okay, yeah.
Right? So Up is a cool movie, right? And it's got that kid and that old guy and some balloons. What's really cool is I did a wedding where the guests were fully involved in this themed wedding. And what they did is they had the whole ballroom was filled with balloons. So I don't know if you remember the movie, but somehow they tie balloons to this house, like hundreds and hundreds and thousands of balloons. The house goes to a cliff top.
Yeah.
Somewhere right like that.
Their dream place
Their
to live on the
dream
planet.
place, yeah, something like that. And that boy was a Boy Scout or some sort of scout. And he wore little soda pop buttons.
Uh-huh.
So what's cute is all of the guests got a soda pop button to wear when they went in addition to getting a balloon that they could release into this ballroom to create the vibe of this just rooftop balloon-covered cliff.
Oh, that's fun. I would love to see pictures from that.
It was very cool.
I feel like the movie Up inspires a lot of people. Like it's the story that connects with a couple who grow old together, who travel the world together, that want to share their life together. And I think that's really fun to incorporate some of those things. That's your jam. I think that's such a fun way to personalize your wedding around an actual movie or theme, kind of thing.
One of the popular Disney ones that I see at weddings a lot is the Beauty and the Beast theme.
Yeah.
So you have like the red rose. I actually had a bride who just kind of dressed in this really ethereal gold dress to lean into kind of that Belle look. So it was really kind of cool. And they had books, they had the rose. So just kind of this full on romantic Disney Beauty and the Beast theme. Again, this couple is Disney obsessed. So everyone that got there was like, oh my God, this is them. It's Nikki and Austin. This is their wedding. There was no question. And again, they found a way to theme their wedding personally and perfectly to who they are.
Can I tell you about one of the I don't know if this was maybe one of the more awkward themes that I've ever experienced.
Yes, I want to hear it.
Fully in line with the couple.
Okay.
And I think they pulled it off as much as they could, in a place like Hawaii, but it was a goth themed wedding. And they were like super goth, like he wore like a velvet suit, like a red velvet suit. I mean, like it was super fun. It was a little tricky because not everybody dressed in goth.
You have to.
I know.
If you're going to a goth wedding, you have to dress in goth.
But it was 100% this couple's vibe, and it was really fun. I mean, it was super fun to photograph. Yeah, I think that's the thing is like if you're doing a theme like that, you got to have everybody lean in. Everyone
has to lean in. I think we talked about this before. Remember we did a white wedding and someone's in denim? Like, get out of there.
You're out.
You're out. Cut them out of the photos.
Another thing that I think is important, and again, a lot of times, we want to talk about those things that are important to the couple and their family. And there are sometimes cultural elements that you absolutely want to bring in to your wedding that, again, honor your family, your history, your culture.
In Hawaii, we have a lot of Asian culture. And so one of my favorites is the Chinese lion dance, right? So it's for good luck, prosperity. In addition, they also do a tea ceremony to show respect to your elders. A lot of these elements are added in because of their culture, because it's something that shows respect and it shows luck. And it's those beliefs that you have based on who you and your partner are.
But you're also talking about something that is super highly interactive for your guests, right? So if you have a lion dance, like that lion's coming around collecting money from everybody, and it's a lot of fun. Or the tea ceremony, you're serving to the entire family.
To the elders.
Or at least to the important people, right?
The important ones, yes.
Okay. I'm obsessed with Indian weddings right now. I am like if I can shoot like 1,000 Indian weddings, I just love all of the detail, the henna, the dresses, just like it's so much fun. And I love to see that. If you're attending an Indian wedding, I think the expectation is that you lean into it fully. The dress, the food, everything, right?
Right. So, we did an Indian wedding a couple months ago together, and it was such a great experience because the expectation is they want you to experience everything together with them. So from covering your head when you walk in because of the sacred area, to trying the foods that they give you, right? Everything is expected that even as a vendor, we were going to do the same thing as everyone else. So you are fully submersed in this amazing, rich, colorful culture.
Right. And a lot of guests, like some of the weddings that we've had recently, a lot of the guests aren't Indian and they're, doing henna. And like they're wearing henna the next day to the reception. It's so much fun. In Indian weddings, they have this thing called the haldi, which is basically they're taking turmeric paste, which is this yellow paste, and they're putting it on the bride and groom. Everyone is expected to dress in yellow. And it's so much fun to see all the guests just totally get excited and be involved in this. Even though it might not be your culture, it's so exciting to be part of.
And gorgeous. It's so pretty.
Okay, there's a couple more things I want to talk about. And again, I think a lot of it is telling your story. As a couple, personalizing your wedding tells your story, right? So how did you meet? How are you connected? I've seen this, Tessa, bringing that story, how they met, their first date, their first kiss, into a wedding.
Oh my God, Joe. So I have a really fun one coming up. This couple met, and I don't know if you've heard of this dating app called Coffee Meets Bagel.
There's so many dating apps. I don't know if I can even keep track, but I have heard of it. I don't have any idea what it's about. But
okay, so it's a low-key dating site, right? It's just you're going to lunch together, going to breakfast or something. So I have a couple that met on Coffee Meets Bagel, and now they're getting married. What I love is they are incorporating that into their late night snacks. So they're going to do bagels and coffee for their guest as a nod to how they met.
I love that. That's fun and delicious.
Yeah. Who doesn't love a bagel? Right? Like with toasters and some hot coffee. I'm so excited.
Is there a dating site called Pizza Meets Beer? Because
is that where we find you?
That would be mine. What would yours be?
I think mine would be crepes and mimosas.
All right. I mean, and there's just so many different things you can do, like the things that the couple loves to do. Couples into movies, like incorporate that. Couples into, whatever it is, bowling, who knows? But, I think that's something that you're personalizing your wedding. You're letting everyone know who you are and what you guys are all about.
I think another cool example is I have a couple on their first date that went to sing karaoke. And one of the brides is a great singer. And so she always loves to sing. And her partner basically was like, why aren't you going to sing for our wedding? You should sing for our wedding. You should sing. She didn't, or she kept saying she wasn't. And she surprised her on their wedding day. But again, it's because their first date was singing together. And that was kind of their vibe throughout their engagement.
I love that. That's perfect. You know what? I think you and I would both agree that like most people can find something that they share in food and drinks, right? So like, we see this a lot. And this is something that I think it's been trending, food. Having a dessert bar with your favorite snacks. Or, we talk about this all the time, cocktails. Having custom drinks at your reception.
Like obviously I would have a gin drink would be my signature.
And I would have a blueberry fizz something because that's
like fruity awesome. Prosecco. For sure. I just did a wedding recently and it was kind of cool because they're from Japan. They brought a ton of these Japanese snacks to create like a custom snack bar.
Yes.
Of all of their favorite little chocolates and crackers. And it was wiped out in like 10 minutes. It was insane. So good.
I actually had a wedding too where I think you and I would both be on the same page. There's this like snack called noms. It's a Hawaii snack, right? It's like gummy bears or, what else is it?
Sour belts, gushers.
Yeah, but they're covered in this liheng powder and like lemon peels. And it's so good. It's so good. And that was their favors. And it was like, I'm like, can I have one, please?
Did you take one?
No, I wish I could have taken one. That was so good.
You did take one, didn't you? Shh. They're so good. But I love that, right? Because again, it incorporates the couple and their personality and their likes into their wedding day.
Their tastes.
Their taste. Yeah, exactly. Literally their taste. From their drinks to their food to their snacks. It all kind of ties in. And people, again, step back and they're like, that's totally their vibe. This is their wedding.
End of the day, right? Everyone walks away knowing you better. Like maybe it's aunts and uncles that didn't really know you that well. And now they walk away and they say, oh, this is them. This is them. And how much fun was that to celebrate that with them?
I love that.
All right, Tessa. Well, that's our show today. It's a little rough. We've been a little bit out of practice.
We're going to get better, guys. Give us a chance.
We actually have a great lineup for season 4. We have a ton of guest speakers that I'm super excited to bring on the show. A lot of great topics that we haven't even touched on. So I'm really looking forward to this season. And as always, if you guys have burning questions that you want us to talk about, send them to us and we will be sure to incorporate them into our show.
All right, guys, we will see you next time. Can't wait for season 4. Stay tuned. Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Unveiling Paradise.
If you enjoy our show, please follow us and rate us on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. It would really mean a lot.
And don't forget to also get on our mailing list and follow us on Instagram. Just do it already.
Until next time, this is Tessa.
And this is Joe.
And don't forget, your happily ever after
is just a plane ride away.